Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Rudolph, and this is Multiple Natures Live. And in our program, I'm going to share with you some of my best experience and tips on how you can align your potential. And in this program, I'm going to be having a guest interact with me and with you about his challenges that he's facing in his life, and there'll be lessons to learn for you and for him and also for me. And let's keep it real. I'd like to introduce Mario Ippolito, a dear friend of mine who I know for the last 2 years. And Mario's got a very colorful past. He's started off working with renting out high-end automobiles and then got into organic farming and medicinal plants, and then wound up managing the front office at the Beacon Theater, and again got back into ethnobotany. I'm going to ask him exactly what that is because I'm not so sure. In Northern California, he's got a passion for plants and for plant medicines and through nutrition, and works with permaculture. He's the CEO also of, get this, Earthlings Delivery. And I would like to welcome Mario to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rudolph. Stephen,
Yes.
thank you so much for having me.
So Mario calls me by my last name, and I also call him by his last name, Ippolito, because and there are our respective names. We do men's work together, and so we're in an organization, and one of the ways that we address each other is by our last name. So it's kind of odd for us to call each other by our first names. So we're gonna have to. We'll do our best. We'll do our best. But if you slip up, it's totally okay. And if I do, I hope you'll forgive, and other people will as well. So in our program, we're going to get to a challenge and some challenges that you faced in your life. That deal with all sorts of things, everything from recovery and addiction, as well as to business issues that you've been facing. And we're going to look at the multiple natures framework as one way of dealing with that and how you've benefited from that. But before we get to that, I just want to jump in and ask you a little bit about this move from, in your late teens, renting out high-end cars, and then this other side of you, and working at the Beacon. It was the Beacon Theater, right? In the front house manager, and then this other side, which seems quite opposed to that, which is permaculture and ethnobotany. Like, what's up with that? Where does your heart lie?
Yeah. So, my heart lies ultimately, I love people. I love to interact with people. I really enjoy being supportive of others, right? Because in that I find value, and that's what I've noticed. Like, I just feel more valuable when I can support and help others, and I always did. I just wasn't aware of that, right? I wasn't aware that that was a way for me I could be to live ultimately like happy, right? And so, yeah, I started off high-end cars with all kinds of musicians, actors, and stuff, and people, in that part of society in Miami, and that was really fun, right? It had its most ups, but it also had, as far as like my soul, it was empty, it was materialistic, and it fed a part that I really needed at that time of my life as a young man, as an older teenager, getting into my 20s. And then, what happened is it was too much. I was in Miami. I was young. There was all these things being brought to me. I was staying at all these hotels that I would never be able to stay at or afford.
So something that you pointed out is this lack of meaning, that there was something missing. It sounds like what you were saying before is that your interpersonal tiger, as I like to call it, is some really big one, and providing that you love to help people. And I know that about you. You're very service oriented. And then there's this other side of you that loves plants and that loves nature. And so I've seen that sort of pull back and forth that you've gone through, and it feels like some of these are coming together. And let's talk about that, how that's come together for you. You've had challenges with recovery, And even around your recovery, you found ways to bring those elements together. Why don't you tell us about that?
Got it. Yeah. So yeah, there's two extremes, right? There's like me being with plants and my passion for plants, my passion to, as you mentioned earlier, ethnobotany, right? The study of plant medicine. Um, and and so now, like, I always kept them separate, right? I was working for a couple of years, with a lot of people, being interactive. Then I took on an opportunity to work on a farm. And that was kind of like isolated, right? There was only a few people there, and I really got to expand like this vibration with plants. Like, there was just something that felt good. There was something that I got a lot of joy in taking my days and starting with something simple as making soil, and that just expanded into anytime I'd go to someone's home or their property. It's like I wanted to embellish. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to create a little sustainable space that they could eat off of, or maybe it was medicines that I had at the time. Um, I just felt really inspired to share the possibility of sustainability for people.
And
And
that's
I and
really
I
big. What I want to say here is that the fact that you started to find what sounds like this high from helping people and sharing about plants and permaculture and these sort of things with them, getting that high naturally.
yeah, yeah, it's I love it. I love to see somebody engaged, and really, one of the key, I think, moments in my life that really made me want to share this was, me and my brother, who we had taken on a garden project at a foster home up in New Jersey. And I remember my brother recruited me. He's like, "Hey man, this is your thing. Like, can you come up here and can we, help support this place? Maybe they'll start using those vegetables to make the food for the children, right? One less expense there that they could provide, maybe more clothes or whatever it is." And so we did that, and we did it in a way that was so beautiful. Like, we went and we got all these plants and we showed them how to, clear the ground and till the soil, put these plants in. And then the next day, we went and we bought, like, I think we planted some carrots, we planted tomatoes, we did some watermelon. So the next day we went to a store and we bought like tomatoes and watermelon and carrots, and then we put them all down there, had the kids come out. And I'll never forget that. Like, how their eyes were so big, and it was such a beautiful moment to see, like, these children that literally thought pizzas grew as a
Right.
pizza on a tree,
Right.
right?
No connection to that. So, like,
Yeah.
when I hear you speaking about this experience, your whole demeanor changes.
Mm.
Your eyes light up. You become energized. I can see you're really connected when you start to talk about this. And for me, I've worked with thousands of people over the last 30 years. And what I find is most people are really disconnected. They're disconnected from themselves, from their natural abilities, from the work that they do. And one of the things that we were talking about before, and I'll even share this image, is how, because people aren't finding this kind of passion or love for what it is that they do, they often turn to different forms of stimulation. So, going around the circle, it could be caffeine, or it could be sugar or carbohydrates, or smoking, drinking, stimulants, video games, shopping. That's another one. Even things like gossip. And so there are all sorts of things that people do to get through their days because what they're doing isn't giving them enough of a charge. It's not giving them enough of a lift in their lives. And so that's when I talk about aligning potential and thriving. And you would understand thriving because you deal with plants all the time. Like, when a plant is thriving, you could see it. And so I'm saying, like, in you, when I look at you now, I can see your flush and you're very present, and when you're talking about this. And I know that when you're involved in it, it's also the same kind of thing. So this is what I want for everybody. I want this even for everybody who's listening right now. I believe that everyone can find this for themselves. And the challenge really is that everybody is unique. So the way that you're going to find this is going to be different from the way that Mario is going to find it, is going to be different from the way that I get it. And that's really the challenge of multiple natures, what we're trying to do. So let's do one thing just for fun. Mario, you took the MN test, the multiple natures test, about a year and a half ago, if I'm correct. And we had like maybe about 2 months that we were working together once a week. We did a boot camp called Feed Your Tigers. And just tell me a little bit what you remember about that experience, just in a couple of words. What was your biggest takeaway from that?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was that I was able to see, because I have such strong natures where they are, I was limiting the other people I could have in my life that would expand the ones that I wasn't strong in. And so now I have this way of looking at the people in my life and what they have, where their strengths lie. So I'm actually able to kind of place certain people in my life when I need it, right? I'm able to observe that, and then I reach out.
That's some advanced tiger work that you're talking about right now, which is, like in step work, right? So I've also listed out a number of steps or principles with the idea of feeding your tigers, and this idea of creating habitats around you that feed your tigers. So as you're rightly saying, where there are other people out there, and when you bring those people into your life, they complement you. They bring out your qualities, and they can pick up for you where you also drop off. And so, let's do one thing. Now we've got to know a little bit about you, and you've shared for our viewers some things about yourself. So here's really the cool part of it, where we'll be able to look at your MN test results, and we can see how your natures create the unique you that you are. So let's sort of dive into that and have a peek, and let's see. I don't know when the last time you looked at this was, but we did this about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's been some time. Yeah, look at that. Interpersonal.
So these are your intelligences. So right off the bat, look at that. A 10 out of 10 in naturalistic. So that's not a surprise. All the stuff that you're doing, the ethnobotany and whatnot. And there's the interpersonal, that, as you were saying, how much you love people and love being with people. Your bodily is also something that's really engaged. It's a big tiger, so you need to be engaged there. And some of the lower ones on here, the linguistic is not necessarily one of your biggest tigers. It's okay. And when I talk about these, Mario, I don't like to speak about them in terms of necessarily like strengths and weaknesses. They could be, but a lot of it depends upon the circumstance. Because if you're dealing with plants most of the time and those sort of things, it might not really be a liability for you. It might just be okay. And so that's also something that I want to share with the viewers, is that many people think that, okay, I'm weak here, I have to work on that. And I basically say phooey on that. You've got qualities, figure out how you can surround people around you and create environments that allow you to thrive. Okay, and let's take a look at your natures here. What comes up for you when we look at this?
Yeah, adventurous, entrepreneurial, and providing, helping, supporting others, healing, entertaining, right? There's that.
Yeah, you got a lot of big tigers, don't you? You have a lot of big tigers to feed, but certainly like that big providing, as you were saying before, it really, it really, when you can be with people and help them, and you're entertaining, you're always fun and funny. And there's that healing. Look at that up there, just massive. But of course, there is this administrative, which is on the lower side. It's like a Pac-Man, your graph here, right? It's sort of like eating that administrative. So here that I don't want to say administrative is your weakness. What I would rather just say is that it's not as big of a tiger, it's a small tiger. Because there's strategies that you can take where it doesn't matter if it's a small one. You could be perfect. You are perfect with this small administrative tiger. But let's talk about the challenge. So you have a challenge that you wanted to share with me today. And what is that challenge in your business?
Yeah, so I've taken on another business, right? We have I live in Florida, and there's hurricanes, right? And every time there's a hurricane, it's an opportunity, right, to to get involved, to support, to help, as well as make make your pay your bills. So with this, I got into a business opportunity with a good friend, and one of the things that I'm finding is that we are both not strong in administrative ways, and
Mm-hmm.
so what that looks like is it's a lot of frustration, right? And what I'm seeing is that our goals are different. His goal is to make money. My goal is to be somebody of service and having integrity in this
Mm-hmm.
mold and air remediation industry, which is kind of a monopoly down here. I'm a third party company, which most of the companies here are all inclusive. So they do the testing, they do the remediation. I'm just doing the testing. And, um, and what I'm finding is that because we are both having, separate goals, separate results that we want out of this, and both of us are not are lower in the administrative quality.
You got that. You didn't say
It's
weaker.
yeah,
Good for you, man. You nailed it. Good.
it's about language, right? I've found that in
Yeah,
my
you're picking it up.
program.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really glad to hear you say that because
you
and
know,
not to I don't want to take away from the story, but just one of the things I see is that so many people are indoctrinated with this this idea of strengths and weaknesses, and it's something that once you understand how tigers work, you realize that there is no such thing. They're just big ones and small ones, and there are circumstances that favor it and certain circumstances that don't. But anyway, come back to
right.
your challenge that you're facing. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're just we're at a place kind of like head to head, because our goals are different in a sense, right? I want to support others. I want people to get the analysis that they need, timely, efficient, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just about let's get them, let's get more. Um, so what I've
Mm.
noticed is this I don't know, this issue that we're having. How can I've been relaying this to him lately. Who can we place into this administrative space? Because my that's not my strongest. My strongest is dealing with the people, is being efficient in the steps that I need to take in order to get a proper analysis
Mm.
to have them supported. Um, and so, yeah, I've brought it up a few times. Like, why don't we take X amount of dollars and apply this to somebody who's administrative that can delegate these new clients properly, more efficiently?
Yeah.
Uh, because with the two of us, my goal is just to be supportive, help, and make some money. His is just to make money, and we're kind of like doing this crazy routine that isn't benefiting anyone really. So
Now here's something to think about, and if if this person is game to do the test, I'm gonna, as someone would say, I'm gonna bet you donuts to dollars that his healing and maybe interpersonal and maybe providing. So his providing nature, where yours is like a 10, we can come back and take a look at this. I mean, look at this massive tiger over here. This says, I love to help. I love to help people, and I love to help them heal and get better. I can't stop myself and to explain to them how to do that. And the entrepreneurial is also there, which means you're doing business about it. And there's the interpersonal, the people talk in their natural way. So people and nature and explaining and healing and provide. So you can't help yourself from doing that. Your tigers they're compelling you to do that. They're thrusting you forward to do that. And what often happens is that if we take a look at your partner's natures, if we do an analysis, I'm going to bet or I'm going to guess that his providing is probably much less than yours. His healing is probably also much less than yours. It might not only be about an administrative thing. So
mm,
Yeah, that could be. In other words, if you feel as though his administrative tiger is not a big one and he's ineffectively delegating things to you, then yes, having an assistant, it can also be a virtual assistant, right? There are people who you can find on an hourly basis in any part of the world, also who are not that expensive, who can, keep things on track. But it I'm hearing something when you say like he doesn't see that as important and I'm about the healing and that's something I call natural communication, or it might be almost like natural communication. In other words, like when I have a particular nature, I communicate with the world and I look out at the world from my particular, like if my healing is big, right, and my providing is big. So for me, when I look out, I'm looking for these opportunities. How can I help people and help them heal? And for me, that's kind of like, even at the brain level, right? When the lion sees the gazelle, right? Dopamine is released in the lion's brain, which is like, I'm going to eat. So he gets a feeling of pleasure. And then when he goes and he eats, then, while he's eating and, chewing down, chomping down that gazelle, it's like dopamine is also being released. That's the feel-good feeling when you eat stuff, right? And so the same thing is happening for you when your tiger is looking at helping to educate people about, natural things for their health. It's like you're whether it's a tiger or the lion, that's what's compelling you and that's what's releasing the happy chemicals in your brain. And so your partner might not have those big tigers, which is why he's not looking out at those particular opportunities. Those might be animals, the lion or the tiger is probably not looking at rodents or I don't know, or things like that. It's only looking at zebras and gazelles or whatnot, right? So there's our birds. They're not going to eat a bird. So it's the same thing. He's looking at the situation totally differently from you. So one thing that you might do is have him do the test, sit down, and then just take a look. And then at that point, it's not really a matter of saying I'm right and you're wrong. It's saying, look, this is how I look at it. And he might say, well, this is how I look at it. And it's like, okay, I understand why your tigers are like this and why you look at it like that. And please understand that my tigers are like this and I'm looking at it like this. And when you can come to that point, then there are effective discussions to say, okay, I accept you for who you are and I can be enrolled in that and sort of support you in that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great opportunity, Stephen. Thank you, man. Yeah, because ultimately I want to see things the way I want to see them, and that's my fallback in life, right? And today I'm willing, which has made a difference in my whole life. Becoming sober and getting through all these different addictions, whether they're food, people, drugs, whatever it is. It's like I'm willing to hear and see a different way because I want the result that benefits, ultimately myself and others in doing that. So, yeah, we have a conversation ahead of us to get him enrolled.
It sounds like bring him along. Let's do it. I don't know. Maybe at a certain point in the future, we can have a three-way. I can have another panel up here. And we can get him here and we can talk about it. And this is, for me, this is important in all aspects of life with all people, whether it's, partners and spouses or with children or colleagues or, bosses or employees, anybody who, or if you're part of a spiritual community or a church community, whatever it might be, there are always different actors and everybody has different tigers, different sets of tigers. And so I like what you said before, that's the way that I like to see it because listen, I often fall into it too. Like sometimes I'm like, how come this person can't understand me? Like, what the heck? Why don't they see it? And, like in my case, my creative, you've got a fairly big one too, like my creative is huge. And my administrative is also low. And so I keep coming up with more ideas than I can implement. And then my team is more administrative and less creative. And they're like, whoa, man, slow it down. Like, we have to prioritize. We can't do that for the next 3 months. And I'll be like, well, why not? How come that's not possible? It could just be done. And then they say, okay, look, let's look at it, and they'll sort of slow me down and then say, okay, if A, then B, then C, then D. And I'll be like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Let's do that next month. So otherwise I could just get frustrated and just get angry and say, she's got a bad attitude, or, he's lazy, or I can find ways to start to accuse people and find reasons to make them wrong because it's not according to the way that I see it. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's think about some takeaways for you, and then even like next steps. So based on our conversation that we've had today, what does it look like for you? What did you gain from this, and what might you take as a next step going forward?
Yeah, so what I gained as a result of being here today, and what we talked about is, getting in a better communication with my partner, and going to do my best to enroll him in the possibility of like taking this test, because it just allows us to have a better perspective of where we're coming from. And I know he's not a bad man, right? Just as I'm not a bad man. Ultimately, every human being, I believe, has love and goodness in their heart. That's where we came from. So the takeaway is, engaging in this conversation that's really necessary, because I ultimately want to continue doing this, second, third job, because what I bring to it and the conversations I have already had and helped others, figure out ways to naturally support their immune system, their lungs, and we make money on it. And I know that, for him, if we make this thrive, it's financially stable for him, which is good, which he'll be in a better space maybe to see other things. And really, is the lack of communication that I've had with him being on a level plane and really expressing what it is to me to do the job that I'm doing, and where I would like him to stand in support of, and see what he feels about that. Like getting into an equal space to where we can both be enrolling, right? To be authentic and wherever that is.
Sure.
So my takeaway is a good heavy conversation, and getting a by when, or a, this is the actions that we'll take in order to get the results we both want.
Nice.
When can we do this? What does it look like?
That's really beautiful, and I just love the idea of natural communication and understanding people's uniqueness, what makes them tick. That's at the heart. It's at the center of multiple natures, and it looks like you're already onto it. So that's huge. I'm glad to see you have that as a takeaway, and if you're watching this show and you find these concepts and the idea of the multiple natures test as an interesting possibility for you, then I'll just want to tell you this. All right, I have something here. Boom, it's coming, and this is it. Right, okay. I'm just getting used to all the knobs and controls here. This is the first episode, so bear with me while I find my buttons. And if you would like to take the MN test and know more about your tigers and how you are unique, this is the way to do it. You can take the MN test. There's a link, www.multiplenatures.com, and I'll leave the link in the show notes so you can check it out there. And in case you are professional and you're using tools to help, whether it's guide people or coach people or mentor people or lead people, we also have a program which is called the MN Practitioner course. It's a certification program that I lead that helps people to use the multiple natures concept in their practice. And with that, it brings us to the end of our program for today. I want to thank you, Mario Ippolito from Florida, for being here and making this show the first episode. You've graced us and have given us a lot to think about. So I thank you for being with us. And to my friends at home, we'll see you soon. And don't forget to feed your tigers before they eat you. I'm Stephen Rudolph. Take care. Till next time.